Sometimes we can tell, almost immediately, when a story isn't about anger or victory, but about the quiet moment someone realizes how little space they were given inside their own family. Eliza Rowan was not looking for a fight. She was looking for clarity. What she found instead was a transaction dressed up as care. This is how she remembers it. I was standing in my parents' living room, the one with the sofa no one was allowed to sit on unless company came over. My mother had arranged the cushions before I arrived. That should have been the first sign. "Sit down, Eliza," she said. Her voice was calm, practiced. "We want to talk about something important." My sister Sloane was already there, legs tucked under her, scrolling on her phone like she was waiting for her name to be called. My father stood near the window, hands in his pockets, watching the street. My mother smiled. "Your father and I have decided to help both of our daughters get established." She turned to Sloane first. "We bought you the condo downtown. 2 bedrooms, close to the new transit line. It's paid for." Sloane finally looked up. "Wait. Really?" My father nodded once. "It's under our name for now. We'll handle the details later." Then my mother looked at me. "And you're getting a house." For half a second, something loosened in my chest. A house sounded solid, permanent, equal. She slid her phone across the coffee table. The photos showed cracked siding, boarded windows, a roof bowing in the middle. Even the yard looked tired. "It has potential," she added quickly. "And you're practical. You always have been." I stared at the screen. "This place is empty. It's just temporary," she said. "You'll know what to do with it." That was the moment something settled. Not anger, not shock, just understanding. We've seen this kind of pause before. The room doesn't change. The air doesn't shift. But something inside the story does. I nodded. Okay. I thanked them. I signed what they put in front of me, and I took the house they were done with. The paperwork was already waiting on the dining table, laid out with the cold precision of a clinical trial. Beside it sat a heavy pen that felt too expensive for the occasion. My mother tapped the top page, her finger landing on the bold header quitclaim deed. "It's straightforward," she said. Her voice hummed with a forced lightness. "Just a formal transfer. Once you sign, we aren't responsible for the liability of that structure anymore." My father didn't look at me. He looked at the wall. "You'll handle the property taxes, the fees, and all future obligations. It's cleaner to have it entirely in your name. Eliza. No strings." I glanced at the document. It was thick, filled with the dense, suffocating language of real estate law. "So, from the moment I sign, the Rowan family estate has 0 claim or responsibility. It's mine, for better or worse." "Exactly," my mother replied. "A little too quickly. Utilities, taxes, insurance, all of it." Sloane laughed softly from the doorway. "Nursing a latte. Think of it this way. At least you won't have rent. You'll just have whatever that is." I didn't answer. I kept reading. I bypassed the common street address and focused on the legal description. There, buried under a string of coordinates and lot lines, was the assessor's parcel number APN. "Did your lawyer explain the zoning attached to this specific parcel?" I asked. My mother waved a hand dismissively. "It's residential. Eliza. It's an old house on an old lot. Don't overthink a gift." I didn't argue. I turned the page and signed. My hand was steadier than hers as she snatched the papers back, as if afraid the ink might vanish. Later, in the silence of my car, I pulled my copy from my bag. I didn't look at the house address. I pulled up the city's updated UCX Urban Center mixed-use zoning map on my phone. I cross-referenced the parcel number. My parents thought they had handed me a sinking ship to save on taxes. They hadn't bothered to check the tide. The land wasn't just a lot, it was a commercial gold mine. The first letter from the city arrived 3 days after the ink dried on the deed. It was wedged between grocery coupons. A plain envelope marked City of Tacoma, Building Safety and Land Use. Inside, the language was cold. The structure had been flagged under the Unsafe Vacant Property Ordinance. An inspection was mandatory. Failure to remediate within 90 days would lead to condemnation and the demolition of the structure at my expense. I stood in the dusty entryway and called the number at the bottom. Building safety. This is Miller. I'm the new owner of the South Alder property, I said. I received a notice regarding its status. I heard the rapid click of a keyboard. Ah, the Rowan parcel. Look, you're the responsible party now. The city has this flagged as a public nuisance. If the structure is demolished or deemed uninhabitable for more than 6 months, the non-conforming use rights expire. Explain that. I said, my pen ready over an old envelope. It means the property loses its grandfathered UCX zoning status. It reverts to standard residential. You'd lose the right to build anything commercial there. What stops that clock active use? Miller replied, utilities must be verified. Major code violations roof, electrical, plumbing must be corrected. You need a certificate of occupancy. Until you have that, the land is just a liability. My phone buzzed. My mother. Eliza. I hope you're keeping up with the taxes. We don't want any legal surprises coming back to us. I've handled it. Mom, I said, watching a raindrop leak through the ceiling. It's entirely on me now. You're officially in the clear. She sounded relieved. That's all we ever wanted for you. Dear independence. I hung up and looked at the sagging roof. The clock wasn't just ticking for the house, it was ticking for the million-dollar future hidden beneath it. I turned the water main, then the gas. The house groaned as the systems pressurized. It was officially alive. I learned quickly that fixing the house wasn't the hard part. Proving I was fixing it was. Every morning before work, I checked the mailbox. Every evening, I spread papers across the kitchen counter. Permits, inspection requests, receipts I kept even when the ink started to fade. One afternoon, a woman from the city called. I see you've scheduled electrical and structural inspections, she said. Are you living there yet? Not full-time, I replied, but utilities are active. That helps, she said. Make sure they stay that way. A week later, a man in a yellow vest walked through the house with a clipboard. He stopped under the living room ceiling and looked up. You planning to replace this section? Yes. Roof reinforcement first, then electrical. He nodded. Get that done. Call us back. Don't let it sit. After he left, I sat on the floor and pulled out my phone. I searched for environmental testing, Phase 1 assessments, local firms. When the consultant called me back, his voice was neutral, efficient. We'll check records. Prior use. No digging. Just due diligence. That's fine, I said. I just need to know. He paused. You'd be surprised how many people don't ask. I didn't explain why I was asking. I booked the assessment. I paid the invoice. At night. I taped inspection dates to the fridge. I wasn't making the house better. I was keeping it alive. My parents asked to see the house on a Sunday afternoon. My mother stood in the doorway longer than she needed to. Her eyes moved first, slow and precise, taking in the patched walls, the new wiring plate, the permit notices taped neatly by the breaker. You've been busy, she said. I've been steady. I answered. My father stepped inside and stopped near the window. He touched the frame, checked how it closed. It's warmer than I expected. The insulation passed. I told him. So did electrical. My mother walked past me, fingers brushing the counter like she was checking dust. She noticed the inspection tags, the utility bills stacked by the sink. Everything's on, she said. Not a question. Yes. She nodded once. Not approval. Inventory. Sloan wasn't with them. That felt intentional. My father cleared his throat. You planning to stay long? For now. My mother turned. Smile thin. Well, you've done more than we thought. I watched her eyes settle on the paperwork, the way they paused there, calculating. No one said thank you. They didn't need to. I could feel it shifting already. My mother came back the next week alone. She didn't take off her coat. She set her purse on the counter and pulled out an envelope, thick and white, like it had weight beyond paper. "I've been thinking," she said, placing it between us. "This doesn't need to be complicated. I didn't touch it." She slid the envelope closer. "We added up what you spent. Materials, permits, labor you hired out." A brief pause. "We rounded up, plus 10%. I opened it. The check was neat, precise. My name spelled correctly. "You can take this," she continued. "Softer now. And we'll transfer the house back. Sloane needs something stable. Her condo isn't holding value the way we expected." I folded the check and set it back on the counter. "So you want to buy my work?" I said. Her mouth tightened. "That's not fair." "This covers the repairs," I said, "not the house." She exhaled, slow. "You always make things difficult." My father's voice came from the doorway. "Your mother's trying to be reasonable." I looked at him. He didn't meet my eyes. The room went quiet. The fridge hummed. The lights stayed on. My mother pushed the envelope again. "Sign the papers. We'll handle the rest." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. "I'm not selling to you," I said. She stopped smiling. Sloane showed up 2 days later with a rented truck idling at the curb. I was tightening a screw on the porch rail when she walked up, phone pressed to her ear. "Yeah, I'm here," she said, then ended the call when she saw me. Wow. Inside, boxes were stacked near the door. She stepped past them and stopped in the living room. Her eyes moved slowly, like she was recalculating. "This looks different," she said. "It's up to code," I answered. She laughed, a quick sound. "I mean, it's nice." Then quieter. "How long did this take?" I wiped my hands on my jeans. 14 months. She blinked. "You hired people?" "Sometimes." She waited. "Mostly weekends." I added, "Alone." She nodded, absorbing that. Her gaze landed on the permit tags, the inspection stickers by the breaker. "Mom said this would be easy." I didn't respond. She walked into the kitchen and opened a cabinet, then closed it again. "So, they're working out the paperwork." I leaned against the counter. "They offered me a check." Her face tightened. And I said no. The truck outside coughed and went quiet. Sloane looked at me. Really looked. For the first time since she arrived, I already told people I was moving. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just stood there, listening to the house hold its ground. My parents arrived with the heavy air of an ultimatum. Catherine placed a leather-bound folder on the counter with a soft thud. Sloane lingered in the hallway, looking around with an owner's entitlement, already picking out paint colors in her head. "We're not here to negotiate." "Eliza," Catherine said, her tone smooth but ironclad. "Sign the transfer back to the family trust. We've increased the reimbursement to 20% over your costs. It's more than fair for a year of hobby work." I didn't reach for the pen. Instead, I pulled a manila folder from the drawer. I placed it beside hers. Same table. Entirely different worlds. "How exactly do you plan to take it back?" I asked quietly. Catherine's eyes flashed with irritation. "Don't be difficult. It's a family matter." I opened my folder. I laid the documents out like a winning hand, the quitclaim deed, the UCX zoning confirmation, the Phase 1 environmental clearance, and finally, the executed purchase and sale agreement. My father leaned in, his glasses slipping down his nose as he read the developer's name. His face went gray. "Eliza." "What is this?" "It's a linchpin agreement." I said, "The developer has acquired the 3 lots behind this one. But without my parcel, they have no street frontage and no access to the light rail corridor. My land is the only reason their project is viable." "This house is a wreck," Sloane snapped, finally stepping into the room. "The house is incidental," I replied, looking directly at her. "I only repaired it to secure the certificate of occupancy, which kept the commercial zoning rights alive. If I had let it sit, the land would have reverted to residential. It would be worth a fraction of this. I pointed to the escrow letter. There is a $150,000 non-refundable deposit already in account. Total sale price is $1.4 million. We close in 14 days. Catherine's hand shook as she touched the paper. We can switch. Eliza, you take the condo. We'll give you the deed to the downtown place today. I met her gaze, feeling nothing but a strange, cold clarity. The condo is a consumer asset. Mom, it's an apartment in a saturated market. It depreciates. This land is a commercial asset in a transit-oriented zone. You told me to be practical. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet numbing. My father looked at the floor. Sloane looked at the check she would never see. I just stood my ground, the owner of the land and the author of my own exit. The deal closed on a Tuesday morning. The escrow officer slid the final settlement statement across the desk, a quiet, clinical end to 14 months of sweat and strategy. Outside, the house still stood, patched and defiant, waiting for a future that no longer included me. When the demolition notice arrived months later, I didn't go to watch. I had already performed my own rituals, the final flick of the light switches, the clank of the deadbolt, and the leaving of the permit folder on the counter like a tombstone for the girl they thought they could discard. The silence from my parents was absolute. There was no climactic argument, just the sound of a bridge burning from both ends. I eventually learned the truth behind their desperation. They had used Sloane's condo as collateral for a speculative business loan, betting on a development deal that required my land to succeed. When I sold to the developer directly, their rebalancing act collapsed. Without the equity from my parcel to bridge their debt, the bank didn't negotiate, they foreclosed. I bought a modest house with the proceeds a craftsman on a quiet street, titled solely in my name. No shared deeds, no family leverage, no hidden clauses. That first night, sitting on the floor with a sandwich and a paper towel for a plate, I didn't feel the rush of revenge. I felt something better, weightlessness. Sometimes I think about that first quitclaim deed at my parents' table. I realize now that they hadn't just given me a house. They had given me the one thing they could never take back the distance to see them clearly. Eliza Rowan didn't need a victory speech. She had her own ground to stand on, and for the first time in my life, it was solid.